Hey everybody, it's LavenderTowne, and today I'm going to be using my art school degree the way it always should have been used, to critique the awkwardly sexy mobile game art that YouTube keeps trying to show me. Starting off, I wanted to critique this picture. This is for the best social MMORPG in 2020, Jade Sword. And I found this piece really intriguing. I really like the picture-in-picture design. I think that's really intriguing and asks a lot of interesting questions. So clearly you in this sort of narrative that they're presenting are holding your phone up to cover up your female friend with this sexy cat girl, and I think that's really interesting. Like, there's obviously conflict story here that we could really dig into, but mostly I just really want to talk about how meaty and thick this cat girl is. I love how tiny her head is compared to her body, because usually with anime style art, which this is clearly has some reference to, the head is so much bigger than the body, and so to see like a girl where it's sort of reversed is really interesting to me. I don't really like the position of her head to her like shoulders and body. I'm sure this position is totally possible, especially if you have a relatively flexible neck, but it just looks uncomfy to me, and I thought that it might be nice to just turn her a little bit so that she looks a little more comfy, and I really wanted to try it out in my style and just make a few little changes to our character design. Now, I have a few pet peeves with this drawing. The first one is these bright white cat ears. Now, I'm really confused about her character design because she looks so like serene and serious, and like this is probably a fantasy world, but then she has this collar and these ears that are clearly just like not attached to her head. They're just things that she's wearing, which make her seem more like a cosplayer, and I just find that very off-putting. Like, I can't really tell if she's supposed to be a cosplayer or this like real fantasy character. I'm guessing because it's an MMORPG that she's supposed to really be this like cat girl, so I decided to change the color and sort of just make the ears real, and I made a few changes to her costume as well. I find that because she's so busty, that for her costume to not have anything really like attaching over her shoulders or to her neck, it just makes it seem like it would be falling off of her body all the time. So I decided to give some support to the top by adding these little like crisscross strings. I also think it makes it look more interesting instead of the bell collar. I'm really not a fan of the bell collar on cat girl types. I just feel like it's such like an overdone cliche. But just to be clear, all of my critiques in this video are just like my personal preference. I'm mostly just messing around because I find these mobile game ads so fun and interesting, because they really represent a art form that like people don't really like. We see it all the time, but we never really look at it as art. My main changes, other than my style obviously, were to change her body position in a way that seemed a little more natural, and also to give her a more dynamic facial expression. I find she's very blank in the original. But there's the final product of this one. Let's move on. Okay, so this has taken a turn. I don't know who thought that this was an acceptable thing to put on YouTube, but this is like one of the creepiest ads I've ever seen. This is for a game called Taboo, I guess, and their line is that nothing is taboo in this game. So there's a lot about this that I don't like, but when we're just looking at the art, one of the things that jump out at me is that the stepdad's hand is a real photo of a hand, I believe. I don't think that's a drawing, which really freaks me out. It's sort of a Madoka Magica sort of like breaking of the fourth wall existential nightmare. And I get that the game is trying to do like an edgy love story, but I still think that having the whole draw of the game be that the character is in love with his stepdad is really creepy. And I especially don't like that he looks kind of like, he looks scared in this picture to me. Like, I'm not really sure. It looks like they made their faces and then they're like just putting the different mouths on top of the faces that they already painted. Like, his frown does not look attached to the rest of his face. It's really, really strange. This is probably like my least favorite art from the entire video. So with this one, instead of just drawing it in my own style and like making minor changes, I really wanted to try to approach this prompt as if they had come to me and asked me to make art for this game. So I thought, well, okay, if we're gonna do something that's this like edgy and serious and kind of a dark premise, I would say, I'm going to try to make it like read that way a little bit more. I wanted it to be dramatic and kind of more narrative looking, almost like it would belong to like a webcomic. So I immediately started to try to like position them a little differently. For me, I would prefer if this story was presented as a sort of like pining from one character and the other character being unaware of it, because personally I think it makes the power dynamic less creepy. Like, the look on the dad's or the stepdad's face is so disturbing, and it really makes this whole thing have a much seedier vibe than I think it needs to. I really tried to focus on making the drama of the concept more of a feature. I actually feel like it's less seedy if you take a concept that's dark like this and actually give it sort of a dark treatment. I think one of the things that throws me off so much about this particular ad is it's taking kind of a very controversial, troubling sort of narrative about a character pining for someone who is like legally related to them, and makes it look so like soapy and just like kind of lighthearted. So I wanted to make it look really dramatic, and I used the balloons throughout the background that you see in the background of the original ad, and tried to just make it look really dramatic. Honestly, I definitely don't think they would hire me for this job because it gives off a completely different vibe, but it was kind of interesting trying to tackle something that I would never draw of my own volition and like try to make it stylish and appealing to myself. Let's just move on. This next one is really intriguing. I started seeing it right at the start of the pandemic and I thought, man, that's in poor taste, huh? It also hits all of the main key things that I see in a lot of these mobile ads. It's got like a battle or military theme. It's got like a cute girl in it, and it also has like options, like clear options that you're supposed to be taking, giving you sort of that choose your own adventure energy. And then lastly, the little like thumbnail of the actual game is like a girl's butt for some reason. So it's really trying to like cover a lot of different people's interests. It's trying to be like sexy and compelling and dark and dramatic and a battle simulator, but also sort of a choose your own adventure. It's trying to be everything. I was so curious about the gameplay, I actually looked it up, and it actually seems to play like an over-the-shoulder, like third-person shooter. But to their credit, it looks like this girl actually is in the game in her 3D model glory, which I was surprised. I was guessing that she was just like a promotional character and that it would be more like a top-down strategy game. I really thought it might be fun to try and make this like a dramatic painting, to really experiment and do something interesting with it, since it is such a dramatic image of a character dying on a battlefield of a virus. Maybe it's like a zombie thing, I don't really know. But basically the drama of this piece is about whether or not you're going to rescue your fellow comrade. Are you going to leave her like she requests, or are you going to rescue her from the battlefield/virus that she has caught? So I really wanted to go into this and make it really dramatic. I'm going to be honest with you guys, I spent so much time trying to paint this and it just turned out horrible every single time. I spent like 3 times as long on this particular piece than I did everything else. I think because I was genuinely sort of like intrigued by this challenge of drawing a deeply in distress character on this battlefield who's dying from some sort of virus. I really wanted to give it the respect that it deserved. But truthfully, like I think it turned out pretty weird and bad. But yeah, she's all right. I was trying to go for like a very gloomy, this very dark green, sickly color palette. I really wanted to speak to like some of the darker, like a Caravaggio sort of essence in this one. But I just feel like I kind of failed on every level. Let me know how you feel about it. Next up is a game called Honor of Kings Epic Heroes. It's evidently not for kids, but it is definitely for women with crazy legs. This one really stood out to me because in its small version, I really couldn't tell what was going on with her body. She has the longest thighs of any woman in the world, and I know that they probably are just like, it's just stylization, and I love stylization, but still I felt compelled to move around her body a little bit and just sort of give it my own attempt at this pose, just because it doesn't look like she's fighting. It looks more like she's throwing it back, which is fine. I mean, she's an epic hero, she can do what she wants. But when I redid it, I decided I wanted to do some more interesting character design. I have a huge pet peeve against like just spandex suit girls with like the hood and the spandex suit, the superhero suit that she's wearing, just absolutely makes no sense together. So I really wanted to try and do something a little bit different. I really like the Assassin's Creed vibes of the hood, but I wanted to give her like a mask so she looks more like an assassin or a part of some sort of like secret cult. Hoods always make me think of like dark society, so I thought that would be a fun direction to go. And I just moved around her body a little bit, shortened up those not thighs, the top part of the leg, and her legs in general. I just think if she stood up with those legs, she would be like 100 feet tall. And then the next step was to remove her from the original background. So I basically just like blurred her out and like painted over the area so that our version would be the one in the front and not interacting negatively with the original. And I decided to just change up the color palette. I really hated that purple color, so I gave her more of like a straight up like black and white color palettes with a bit of red poking out, and there she is. Truthfully, I feel like I took some of the energy out of it by making it less of an action pose and more of a landing pose, but I still kind of like this version better, I think mainly because of the color palette. Please let me know what you thought of this very weird video. I was inspired just because I kept seeing stranger and stranger ads and I really wanted a reason to talk about them. But yeah, thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you to all of my patrons, including Abnormal Crap, Ambrose, Best Kaiju, Lion, Christopher, Clockwork Construct, Dark Jelly, Dr. Casket, Larry Louie, Emily Borgoing, Fabletel, Juliana Javis, Griffix, Hidden Squid, Ice Cream Pal, Yvonne Rodriguez, JJJ, John Mosket, Joseph Copel, Lauren, Lebleble, Liliana Hammond, Maria Costa, Mr. Dr. Pants, Mia Lavali, Nicole Ludwak, Nicolette Queen, Nora Cornelison, Hugh Musgrove, Rainwater Pearls, Rune Raincrow, Snow White, Some Mediocre Artists, Sparky Plays, The Becky, Tom David Johansson, Trace Subaki, Violet Zirkelbach, Yaboyast and Yume Lily.